Yeah, yeah.
Ma'am, I didn't get any mail regarding the Google Classroom submissions. So I asked
Yeah,
one of my friends
just now
forward it.
I WhatsApp, like I have messaged you that after the class, I'll send you the link again on your email. Or if
Ma'am,
it
could you
is
please,
not possible on email, if your email is not working properly, you check the trash and spam
ma'am,
and but check.
I tried with two email IDs. Ma'am, could you send me the code if it's possible?
Uh, code, I'll try to put it in your group. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am.
Ma'am, it might be in the spam folder of the mail because
Yeah,
I
that is.
had that in the spam folder.
But
Ma'am, I
she's
checked
saying,
all the folders.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's
Okay,
not there.
doesn't matter. I'll send you. Roll number 38, I have written here.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what we have discussed earlier, water treatment and experiments based on water treatment. Alkalinity and hardness is there for your theory as well as practical. TO and free chlorine are only for practicals, right? So we have completed water treatment till now, and refractories is like part of engineering materials. Now, engineering materials, which is like chemistry people are teaching, is the important one is generally cement, then refractories, then you have number of composite materials, then you have glass, ceramics, number of many more things. Okay. Nowadays, an important class is your nanomaterials, nanoparticles, metal nanoparticles or metal oxide or any sort of nanoparticle. Obtaining nano size is a part of material chemistry for all the engineers. Okay, so one small portion of materials is a refractory material. Okay. Now this refractory material, you can see in the figure shown here, uh, there are like different shaped, like these are not these are not the crucibles, but they are what you have, just like you have standard joints in your glassware, right? Standard joint means if you are having a round bottom glass, borosill, and you have a reflux condenser, there will be a standard joint and you apply petroleum jelly and fix it like this. So these are the adaptations to connect two different things, and these are the crucibles. Now, crucibles are all the materials. Engineering laboratory will have number of different type of furnaces, and in those furnace which are operating at high temperature, you need a crucible to keep your material which is heated at a high temperature. Okay, so these crucibles are made up of refractory material, so that we have to see. So what is a refractory? Inorganic material which can withstand very high temperature without softening, melting, or deformation. Okay, so what can you see on the screen? This is just to tell you that why refractories are important and why it is there in your syllabus. Okay, so what you can see on this, there is a fireplace. Now the fireplace must be having a chimney here to remove all the soot particles and the exhaust gases of combustion. Then the this particular fireplace is lined by refractory brick. Then if you have ever been to a goldsmith, and especially in villages, this is more common. Students who has accompanied their parents to the goldsmith, he'll have a crucible in which he will melt the gold and then pour it into like a different metal. This is an ispat company, like manufacturing steel, okay, iron. Okay, and this is some different material like aluminum and other things nowadays. more used for your frames and windows and panels, partitions and cabinets and all. Okay, so this the material or the vessel which is holding the molten metal is called as crucible, and this crucible is made up of refractory material. This particular thing you can see it is having a stainless steel lining, but inside is a refractory lining in which the molten material or molten metal is there, and that is being carried through this particular trolley or pulley, and that is discharging it here. Okay, so that is why we need to read refractories. Okay. So what are refractories? Are inorganic, non-metallic material which can withstand high temperature without undergoing physico-chemical changes and deformation in shape. Now, according to American Society for Testing and Materials, non-metallic materials have having those chemical and physical properties that made them applicable for structures or as components of systems that are exposed to environments above 1000 degree Fahrenheit or 538 degrees centigrade. So any material which is exposed to 1000 degree Fahrenheit or 358 degrees centigrade, that will come under the class of refractories. Okay, so there are certain requisites of a good refractory, how a good refractory should be. So refractory material should possess good refractory properties, that is their physical, chemical, mechanical properties should not undergo substantial change at high temperature. Then they should be chemically stable under service condition. uh, it should be good, it should bear good thermal strength. Now what is meant by thermal strength? They should be able to withstand thermal shock due to rapid and repeated temperature fluctuations. Like you put on the furnace in the laboratory of material science department, the furnace is put on, the temperature goes high with a high electricity consumption using like two electrodes inside the furnace, and the refractory like temperature attained is say 1500 degrees centigrade. So it takes around 4 to 5 hours to go to a temperature of 1000 or 1500 degrees centigrade. Now, if you immediately put it off, like after like use of 7 minutes, because different process will require temperature to be maintained at that time. So if it is shut down immediately after 1 hour, then the same day you are cooling it back. So cooling also is very gradual. If you heat it to 1400, 1500 degrees centigrade, you will find next day if you come, the furnace temperature will be somewhere around 400, 300. Okay, so it takes a long time to cool because you like the furnace is completely insulated. So whenever there is a thermal shock, now what is a thermal shock? You are putting heating it and then cooling it. So if you frequently go for such kind of thing, then the refractory material should have the thermal strength, means it should not like have a very different expansion coefficient and contraction coefficient, so that it remains in place without like undergoing any deformation. Then good resistance to abrasion by dusty gases and erosion by molten metal. Now, you must have some time in 8th and 9th standard studied a blast furnace. The height of the blast furnace is huge. So, what you see at the bottom, what all refractory lining is there, that should not undergo erosion by the molten metals which are at very high temperature in molten condition. Then the gases which are formed inside the furnace, which are like dusty, containing lot of like soot and fly ash and number of things. Like the refractory material should be resistant to those things, then be able to withstand the charge load at working temperature and other severe operating conditions. Now, there are two different things. One is refractoriness. That is, some material, when you heat it, its dimensions are not changing. But the same material, when you heat it to a high temperature and apply certain load on it, the properties are different. Like under load, the refractory material should work and should not undergo any changes. Then they should possess low permeability. It should have less permeability. Coming to classification. According to classification based on chemical composition, refractories are classified as acid refractory, basic refractory, and neutral refractory. So, what are acid refractories? Acid refractories are made up of acidic oxides. So, they are resistant to acidic slags or acidic material formed inside the furnace, but they are attacked by alkalis or basic slag. So such acid refractories are not resistant to basic slag, but they are resistant to acidic slag. That's why they are termed as acidic refractory. Then, for example, fire clay, silica, zirconia. Then you have basic refractory. Now, these basic refractories like dolomite, magnesite, they are the basic oxides and they are resistant to basic oxides, but they are attacked by acids. So they are not resistant to acids, and that's why they are termed as basic. Neutral ones are made up of weakly acidic or basic oxides and chemically stable to both acid and bases. Example is chromite and silicon carbide or carbon refractories. Then, second type of like chemical strength, that is what we have just now discussed. This chemical composition, or what you say chemical strength, is one and the same thing. Acid refractory, basic refractory, and neutral refractory. Okay, so here some examples are given with their softening temperatures. Then the second type of classification is based on composition. According to this, single oxide refractories, mixed oxide refractories, and non-oxide refractories. So you can classify the refractories based on composition. So single oxide are alumina Al2O3, or silica SiO2, or magnesia MgO, or zirconia ZrO2. Then mixed oxide refractories are fire clay refractory. Fire clay will have Al2O3 and SiO2. Some proportion is something 60-40, or like you can change the proportion depending on where you are using this particular fire clay refractory. Then zircon, ZrO2 and SiO2. Then spinel, that is MgO plus Al2O3. Then you have non-oxide refractories. These non-oxide refractories are carbides, which are not containing any oxide. So carbide, silicon carbide, um, boron carbide, carbon, then nitrides, Si3N4, boron nitride. Hmm. Then the borides, zirconium boride, titanium boride. These are some of the non-oxide refractories. And we have already seen that they are neutral also. Okay. Then the third type of classification, you can classify the refractories based on thermal strength under load. So if the load is 3.5 kg per centimeter square, whether the refractory is able to withstand this particular thing. Wait a minute. Now this is, I think this is under load 1100 degrees centigrade. Under load it is 1350 degrees centigrade, as I remember. And this is all above 1600 degrees centigrade. So when there is load, now there are two different things. There are two different things. Now these refractories, what I told you, they are having fusion temperature of some 1650 or 1700 degrees centigrade. Okay, but when you apply this particular load, it is seen that they fuse at much lower temperature. So any such refractory which does not fuse up to 1100 degrees centigrade under a load of 3.5 kg per centimeter square, it is termed as moderate heat duty. Then high heat duty is the one which is not deforming up to 1350 degrees centigrade under this load condition. And super refractories are those which are not deformed uh, under the load condition up to 1600 degrees centigrade. So such are like you are again this particular thing non-oxide diamond, silicon carbide, titanium boride. These are the super refractories. Okay. So now classification based on this particular thing,
Ma'am,
softening temperature. Now you can classify them as based on softening temperature also. Now what we have said, based on thermal strength they are classified because they can resist this load without softening. Now this is saying, this is the classification based on refractoriness. What is the meaning of refractoriness? It is the softening temperature. So there is no load over it. So low duty refractory, they classify, some classify them as 15 to 1600 degrees centigrade is the fusion temperature. Then high duty refractories and super duty refractories above 1760 degrees centigrade. Okay, so this is also another type of classification. Then some sound was there. Anyone having any doubt?
ma'am, if the material is insulated, then where does the heat go while cooling down?
Insulated, yes, good question. There are always some loss of radiation, loss of heat due to radiation, and that is why the furnace will cool down and that process will be very slow or gradual. So, any furnace will be having a stainless steel thick container inside which you will have different refractory material lining. And if you open the muffle furnace, you will find बाहर से इतना बड़ा box. I'll show you. हाँ, आगे है. So as we go ahead, बाहर से the box appears very big. Okay, of the dimensions around 2 feet by 2 feet and depth is around 3 feet. Okay, such big is the muffle furnace. But actually, when you open the furnace, what you will see that inside it is hardly 6 inch by 6 inch, and inside it will be 1.5 feet or 1 feet depth furnace. Now there will be two electrodes which will heat the internal. So you have different layers stacked inside this stainless steel box so that the outer part is insulating, the inner, very core inner part will be highly conducting. That is why the heat will be uniformly distributed when the electric supply is there. Okay, so we will see all those things further. Okay, don't worry. Now, coming to the properties. In order to select a refractory best suited for particular operation, following aspects are important. Now, depending on what is the operation being carried out, hmm, what is the job, you have to select the refractory. Now, very first thing you should see is what is the working temperature of furnace or the process. Okay, instead of furnace, I'll say what is the working temperature of the process. So if the process is undergoing at a high temperature, how long the high temperature is there, do you want to retain the heat, and so on are the important things. Then what is the nature of material to be handled? Is it producing too much of obnoxious gases, and will it be at a high pressure and temperature, or it is producing molten metal or slag? How much is the slag? What is the nature of slag? Okay, what are the fluxes added? These are the important things you have to first see. Then before selecting a refractory, okay. Then magnitude of temperature fluctuations and their frequency, because certain properties are there of the refractory which will overcome the ill effect of rapid temperature fluctuations and so on. So accordingly, you can select. So you have to check how the temperature will be fluctuating? Is it daily on off business, or it will be like you turn it on and it works for like till the bricks are baked and completely like it is termed as burning. Okay, so strength is attained on burning. So how long that has to be done, for a month or two? Those things are to be seen. Then, what is the load applied? Like, is it the hearth of the furnace over which number of bricks are kept, and like what will be the load, like on the refractory material? Then, chemical reactions likely to be encountered. Any such chemical reaction which will cause the refractories to erode out, that has to be seen. So these are some of the things which you should first see for from your process or from your system which you are carrying out. What are they? Okay, and what is your requirement now? For constructing a furnace, several types of refractories may be required because no single refractory can withstand different conditions prevailing in the furnace. That's why just now I told you, एक furnace है muffle furnace जो हर lab में आपको दिखेगा. That muffle furnace will be lined with different material outside. Outside means stainless steel को attach करके, and the inner lining will be different, and in between will also be different, because no single refractory will suffice requirement of all properties. Okay, so what are the important properties of refractory material? The first one is chemical inertness, second one is refractoriness, third one is strength or refractoriness under load. So refractoriness is different, and refractoriness under load or the thermal strength are different things. Okay, then porosity, then thermal spalling, then thermal conductivity, then what is its heat capacity, then electrical conductivity, and dimensional stability, and the bulk density. Okay, now one by one we'll be seeing these properties. Now the very first one is refractoriness, because refractoriness we generally see as the softening temperature. So refractoriness is the property by virtue of which it resists any deformation or change in shape at elevated temperature. So there is no load over here. Okay, so what is done? Like a slim tetrahedrons are made, um, and there will be one reference material. A is the reference material. Now, as I told you, your high temperature, like your carbon or silicon carbide, carborundum, or boron nitride, such type of reference material will be used, which does not deform at a lower temperature, but they are high temperature refractories. And your test material, like you have prepared by like taking some combination of alumina, silica, or magnesia, MgO, and lime, CaO. Okay, so dolomite or any combination has been taken by you. Now, when you take such combination, it will be all the earthy material. Okay, so once you prepare that combination and treat it, we'll see the preparation also at the end. So a slim tetrahedrons are made, and the whole thing is heated in a furnace, and this is not under any load or pressure. Okay, so like they are characterized by softening temperature at which softening starts. So you have to see at what temperature the apex of the uh, cone bends. This property is evaluated by pyrometric cone equivalent test. So we call it as pyrometric cone equivalent test. Now, important parameters are dimensions of the cone. The sample cones should be having same dimensions as your reference cone. Then the important part is what is the heating rate, and the third one is what is the mineral composition. Okay, so pyrometric cone equivalent, as you can see here, this one is the standard which is standing erect, but rest of them are going down. So a finely ground refractory material is molded into small cones, and these cones are of pyramidal shape of standard dimensions, 38 mm in height, and the triangular base um, all along the sides is 19 mm alongside. So it is a triangular thing, okay, with 19 mm each side, and the height is 38 mm. Okay, they are also termed as Sager cone, Sager cones. Okay, and these Sager cones are made from your sample material. First, you have to grind it finely. Then, after grinding it fine, then you prepare such cones, and then you keep it for heating. Now, generally, the heating rate is 10 degrees centigrade per minute. Now, this causes softening at a definite temperature, leading to its apex touching the base. So, bending interval is the temperature interval between the temperature at which bending starts, that the apex part starts bending, and the apex touches the base. So, the apex going and touching the base is termed as the bending interval. Now, the bending behavior of test cone is compared with standard cones. And what it is the property by virtue of which it can withstand high temperature without appreciable softening or deformation under working conditions. So softening temperature should be always greater than the operating furnace temperature. Uh, high refractoriness is important because of refractories, since they are multi-phase material, different material, they do not show a sharp melting point because they are composed of several minerals, both crystal and nature. That is why these things do not show a melting point, right? So they show softening temperature or fusion temperature. Softening or fusion temperature is termed as refractoriness. Okay. Then, I think this is the same thing again repeated. So we think only the important part is apart from 10 degrees centigrade per minute, you have 20 degrees centigrade per hour, 100 degrees centigrade per hour, 150 to 100, 600 degrees centigrade per hour. So these are heating rates. Now, this is the table where the fusion temperatures of some refractories is arranged. So fusion temperature is the refractoriness. So the refractoriness of various refractory material. First one is silica, silica brick, fire brick, theodolite, and bauxite, and then alumina, and so on and so forth. And it is not arranged as per the what you say fusion temperature. It's not the ascending order, but like they are arranged like somehow. So what we find here, carbon 3500 degrees centigrade, and it is the tetrahedrally bonded carbon that is diamond. So diamond is the one that can withstand the highest temperature without undergoing fusion. Okay. Rest all your like non-oxide refractory boron carbide 2450, that's 2400 titanium boron to boride 2940. Then silicon nitride, this is a lower one, 1900. So these are the non-oxide refractories. The silicon carbide, also termed as carborundum, very frequently used, 2700 degrees Celsius. These are the refractory methods.
Ma'am, it is the temperature bending is started, ma'am.
Yes, it is the temperature at which it starts. And bending interval is one when the bending started and it is touching the plant. Why it is significant is like in certain cases, you will find that some of the refractories, like if they are very pure, single element, single material, then it may show like, bending interval may be short. Within 20 degree or 20 degree, it may touch the glass. But for some materials, the fusion is very gradual. It fuses for 200 degrees. For the range of 200 means it starts at say 1400 degrees centigrade, but it touches the glass at around 1600 degrees. So, there, like you correlate the composition with the bending properties also. Okay, so that is when you see these things in too much of it, then you will understand what is the significance. Like you must have studied that any crystals, and when you like when you go for its melting test, melting point test, it melts at a specific temperature, right? The whole compound in the melting that capillary, it melts. Have you ever seen or done the melting point determination of organic compounds? No,
No, ma'am.
you didn't perform experiments, right? Okay, okay. So, if there is some impurity in the organic compound, the melting point is much lower. Okay, so that is regarding the organic compounds. Here, these are inorganic compounds. As such, we see that they are the like either oxides or mixed compounds and so on and so forth. So they show like the bending interval. So based on the bending interval, you can then decide upon the purity and other things of the compound of the material. Okay.
Ma'am, of which bending interval is not given. That's bending interval is like 10 to 15 degrees Celsius.
कहाँ पे?
Yes, ma'am. 3500 degrees Celsius of carbon, ma'am.
No, I am not getting your question. Please.
Only one
repeat
temperature
your-
is given of these, ma'am.
Hmm?
Ma'am, of which, ma'am,
You see, your
that is only
voice is
given.
breaking.
Will
Your voice is breaking.
ma'am, is it clear now? Ma'am,
Yeah. Is it clear? I could hear properly. Now, what is your question?
ma'am, of which, ma'am, only one temperature is given. These
Yeah.
materials, ma'am.
Yeah.
Then it means its bending starts and end also in range of 10 degrees Celsius or 15 degrees Celsius.
ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता कि रिफ्रैक्टिव मटेरियल का बेंडिंग स्टार्ट भी उसी टेम्परेचर पे हुआ और फ्यू लाइक टच भी उसी लाइक इट इज बेंडिंग इट सो completely that it is going like this. So this is only the temperature at which the bending has started.
Bending start. Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Then chemical inertness. So resistance towards chemical reaction with slags, hot gases, flue ash, um, fuel ash, etc. Then you have your flue gases are also there inside the furnace. So, as I told you, like in the blast furnace, lot many what you metallurgical coke will be there, which will be used as fuel. Then, when it burns, there will be lot of flue gas formed. Okay, so it should be resistant to those things. Should be chemically inert for prolonged performance and to avoid contamination in the products. So it is seen that you can also write about the acid refractory that should not be used with alkaline products actually. Okay, chemical inertness means when you know that in the blast furnace, if your product is alkaline in nature, then such a furnace should not be lined with an acid refractory. Okay, and generally when iron is uh, like melted, iron ore is melting is there will be alkaline slags formed, and that is why acid refractory should not be there. It should be aligned with basic refractory. And where basic acidic products are formed, um, it should be lined with acid refractory and not with the basic refractory. So basic refractory should not be used with acidic products, and acidic refractory should not be used with alkaline products. So acceptability of refractories is based on both chemical and physical properties. So reaction may occur due to contact with furnace gases, slag, fuel, ash, steel, glass, or whatever material, not only steel, the whatever metal is being extracted, that particular. Okay. Then resistance to erosion and abrasion. So erosion is gradual wearing away of a material from its surface due to mechanical action of flue gas. Flue gas means what all are the exhaust gases coming out, and at high velocity, at a high temperature, whereas abrasion is caused by descending hard charges of carbon particle, molten metal, molten slag when the nozzle or the spout from where they are moving out of the furnace, that part will undergo abrasion. Okay, so erosion and abrasion produces cavity at the furnace and reduces mechanical strength of the furnace, and refractoriness should show strong resistance. Refractories should show strong resistance towards erosion and abrasion so as to last for a longer time. The furnace once made should work for a longer time. Okay. Have you ever seen a rotary kiln? There is no rotary kiln here. Okay. Next, in the next class, I'll show you how cement is manufactured. Then a number of things will be more clear. Okay. Coming to strength and refractoriness under load, this is the favorite property of examiners. A lot many questions will be asked on this particular property. Now, cold strength has not much relation to the strength at high temperature. Cold strength means what? Refractoriness. Is it a cold strength? It is the fusion temperature. Refractoriness is the fusion temperature. But refractoriness under load is what is termed as thermal strength of the refractor. So the cold strength or the refractoriness has not much relation to the strength at high temperature. Example, fire clay bricks soften gradually over a range of temperature, but under load condition they collapse at much lower temperature than determined by Sager's cone test. Okay, just now we saw Sager's cone test to determine the refractoriness. Now the refractoriness of fire clay is 1700. But what we saw there, under load, they'll fuse around 11 to 1200 degrees centigrade. Okay, So such a material should not be used under load condition, or you identify how much is the load and then you can use. The high temperature load bearing characteristics of a refractory is determined by refractoriness under load test. Okay, now refractoriness under load test. Now here is shown a blast furnace. First we will see this and then we will see the. Now this is an like exterior or actual view. You can imagine this is a three-story building. So this is this is around 30 to 50 meters high blast furnace. Okay, so such high blast furnace. Now you can see this part is the lining which is there inside. You can't see the sectional view can show you the refractory material that has been lined. Outside is the brown. This is stainless steel which has got a little bit rusted from outside. Okay, so this refractory lining should not fuse and move along with the molten gases. And here will be the metallurgical coke and the mineral and crushed uh, minerals will be here. So uh, it should resist the charge load. Okay, so that is why we perform refractoriness under load test. Now it is conducted on specimen of size 5 centimeter uh, square area and height of 75 centimeter under a load of 1.75 kg per centimeter square. And this specimen, which is like 5 by 5 centimeter like this, and height is 75 centimeters, it will be heated at a rate of 10 degrees centigrade per minute in a carbon resistance furnace, and the heating rate and from the upper part at this 75 centimeter height, like this is 75 centimeter, at this place will be a load applied, a constant load of this is applied. Okay, so as the temperature goes on increasing, the temperature is programmed in such a way that the moment this particular load shifts by some value downwards, that tells you the deformation. So refractoriness under load is expressed in terms of temperature at which 10-degree deformation occurs on the test specimen. So 10% deformation will means if it is 75 centimeter, if it sinks at the to the if this load goes down by 7 centimeter, that will be 10% deformation. So that will give you that particular temperature at which this particular load is shifting down by 7 centimeters will be your refractoriness under load. Okay, so this is the same thing written. Some refractories like fire clay, high alumina bricks soften gradually over the range of temperature, but but undergo appreciable deformation under load condition, and they collapse far below their true fusion point as determined by Segal cone. Okay. And on the other hand, other refractories such as silica bricks, often over a relatively narrow range of temperature, they soften over a relatively narrow range of temperature and exerts good load bearing characteristics close to its fusion temperature. So this particular thing, whatever is the fusion temperature, it will be like at least resisting up to that or close to that. Okay. So this is here the specimen is prepared. RUL testing equipment is there. Then you have this particular specimen made here and the applied load, and this will measure the shift in the applied load as the furnace, like the whole thing will be heated, it will be inside the furnace, and this particular thing will be measured. So This is determined by RUL. We have already discussed these things. 5 square centimeter, 75, and this is category. Same slide is repeated again. Okay. So fire clay brick refractoriness under load, RUL. The graph shows result of RUL test on test piece taken from a fire clay brick, approximately 35% alumina. Test condition is 0.2 Newton per millimeter square. Uh, 5 Kelvin per minute is the heating rate, and the condition is static air. Static air means there is no inflow and outflow, so that there is no loss of heat due to like the sensible heat is not taken carried away by the dynamic air. The air is static inside the furnace. So at 960, the test piece reaches its maximum expansion. Deformations of 0.5%, 1%, 2% have been achieved at 1210. Okay, and 1240 and 1270 degrees centigrade respectively. So this is the whole graph for um, your fire clay brick. Okay, so this is how the test is performed, and this is performed by performing the RUL test. So next is dimensional stability. So dimensional stability, it is the property to resist any change in volume that may occur due to prolonged exposure to high temperature. So reversible volume change, that is increase in volume during heating, is compensated when temperature is lowered. So irreversible volume change is a permanent change. So there are two types of permanent change. One is permanent expansion. This occurs due to transformation towards a lower density form upon heating. So on heating, the material gets converted into a lower density form. Means the spatial arrangement of various atoms, they move apart, and once they are moving apart, then they do not revert back. Like you have quartz SiO2 and tridymite. Okay, so here the specific gravity is 2.65. You can see these white dots on this brown. Like the arrangement of those um, atoms will be changing, and the specific gravity of this becomes 2.26. So this is one permanent change taking place. Then further, uh, cristobalite. So cristobalite is specific gravity 2.32. Okay, so specific gravity is here it decreased a lot, but here it has improved. Okay, so this arrangement of these, like you can consider these white dots on the brown surface as if they are the SiO2, and they are rearranging them, and the crystal structure or the lattice structure is different. Okay, then important properties are like contraction or shrinkage. So upon heating, the atoms may move closer and they may show shrinking. When they show shrinking, your specific gravity should improve, and that is what is seen. So this is due to formation of increasing amounts of liquid uh, from the low fusible constituents of the refractory brick. The liquid gradually fills the pores of the refractory body, causing a high degree of vitrification and shrinkage when it is exposed to high temperature for a long period, or by transformation towards a higher density form upon heating. So it turns from 3.05, the density is increasing crystalline periclase, amorphous magnesium oxide, magnesia, which was amorphous, now has become crystalline periclase. Crystalline means there is an orderly arrangement of all your MgO inside this particular thing. So the specific gravity has
Ma'am,
increased. Yes,
after heating, material should expand, na?
yeah, materials will expand. Here uh, it is expanding. That is why its specific gravity is decreasing. So material will expand, but certain things here, why it is happening like this? Some material will contract. एक पॉलीथीन बैग लो, उसको फोल्ड करो, या पॉलीथीन प्लास्टिक बॉक्स लो और उसको मेल्ट करो. मेल्ट होने के बाद क्या, हीट करने के बाद क्या होता है? मेल्ट होता है, केक बन जाता है. It forms a cake, isn't it? If you burn a plastic or heat the plastic, it will fuse and all the molecules will crumple and they will come closer. And what you find is mm, it is occupying lesser space now because the molecules are moving closer. The same thing here, what is mentioned is this is due to formation of increasing amount of liquid form, the low fusion constituents of the refractory bit. The liquid gradually fills the pores and they are increasing the specific gravity, or more quantity is now occupying in the lesser space. So this was amorphous and this is crystalline. They they have they have become more compact and more close on heating. So there will be always exceptions to anything when you say that expansion is expected on heating. There are certain material which show contraction also. So this is one of the material which shows contraction. That's why it has been cited to you as an example. Clear?
Ma'am, after applying some load, this can be expected.
After
While heating.
applying some load, no. Without load also a material can undergo contraction and it undergoes contraction. Some material show contraction.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
Okay. So thermal expansion. Now thermal expansion, this is a measure of extent of expansion under thermal exposure. Much expansion lowers load bearing capacity. Like you see certain refractory material will show increase in volume um, due to heating, whereas some other refractory may not increase to that extent as the first one. So if the first one is increasing in volume by say 2%, the other one may be increasing by 0.02%. So which one is better? The one which is not expanding much at a higher temperature, because if it is expanding, then when you cool it, it will contract. Now, if it is expanding and contracting, then a time may come that the molten metal and slag, जहाँ contraction के वजह से cracks develop हो गए, वहाँ पे जाके like metal will penetrate inside or slag may penetrate inside. Now, if that happens, then it is difficult because the metal is a different pure molten metal. So it has a different expansion coefficient. Your refractory material is having different expansion coefficient. So more care should be taken that another material is not occupying this particular thing. And for that sake, your expansion coefficient of your refractory material should be minimum. Repeated expansion and contraction causes wear and tear and rapid breakdown. A good refractory should have least possible thermal expansion coefficient. Okay? Then Thermal conductivity. Now, this is the diagram of a muffle furnace. Just now I told you. So the inside part is very small, and this part which you can see is lined by highly conducting refractory material, whereas the outer part of this will be lined by a porous refractory material. So thermal conductivity, it determines the amount of heat that flows through a furnace wall under service condition. So it is generally high thermal conductivity refractory material will be used for inner lining of the furnace. Uh, Outer lining is just an insulator, and there will be an in-between layer. Okay, so you can have like something in between some outer lining and inner lining. Inner lining will be highly conducting, and outer lining will be lowest conduction, so that loss due to radiation is minimum. Okay, so this property determines any loss or transmission of heat. The densest and least porous brick have the highest thermal conductivity, owing to the absence of air or voids. On the other hand, in porous bricks, the entrapped air in the pores act as a non-heat conducting material. So generally, low thermal conductivity is will minimize heat loss outside and thus to maintain high temperature inside. But refractories with high thermal conductivity is required where source of heat is from outside, like marble furnace, coke ovens for efficient heat transfer. Choice of thermal conductivity depends on the type of furnace. Okay, so thermal stalling we will see tomorrow. Today we will stop here. Now I have the book PDF of this particular chapter. If you want, I can put it in your group. Okay. So tomorrow we don't have a theory
Yes, ma'am.
class. The theory class will be now on Thursday morning 10 a.m. Okay. So Thursday, I think I'm having two batches. So whether I'm taking the Thursday's theory class, because Thursday X2 and Z1 two vivas will be there. So we will be meeting down, like you will be writing the test tomorrow. I have MSc
What's the timing, ma'am?
6 p.m. evening.
Is it open book test, ma'am?
Yeah, it's an open book test. तो आप घर से दे रहे हो तो things are open. Isn't
Could you
it?
please take care of the Google Classroom link, please?
Yes.
Could you please take care of the Google Classroom link, please?
Yeah. Roll number 38. Yeah,
Yes.
I'll see that. Okay.
It will be on the WebEx Meet or where?
मैम चली गई क्या?
Yes.
She's there.
What was the thing? Okay. Yeah, I had muted the.
Ma'am, where will be the exam happen on WebEx Meet or?
Google form.
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Ma'am, did
how
we
would you
receive the
ensure
link
that
on
no
the
one
mail?
cheats?
Only thing is you should stick to the time constraint. Otherwise, late entries will not be entertained. Okay. The time given to you, you have to see that you are writing your test within the time. Clear?
Ma'am, excuse me.
Yeah.
Ma'am, tomorrow X4 people are also having Viva, ma'am, only for X1, X2, X3, ma'am.
It will be only sent to X1, X2, X3. X4 students will not receive anything.
Thank you, ma'am.
X4 students will receive from their course coordinator for practical. How many experiments you have completed X4 batch?
4, ma'am. 4 completed.
4 completed. Okay. And when are you submitting? Like after 5 experiments or?
Sir will let us know today, ma'am. We have practical class today, so sir will.
We have to submit till 5 p.m. 4 experiments.
So you have to submit.